Real Madrid's Galacticos are remembered as football royalty. Zidane, Ronaldo, Figo, Beckham, Raul. But hidden between the superstars was a player Madrid inexplicably allowed to leave for free. There was no protest, no panic, and no headlines. Just a quiet exit. 10 years later, that same player had won the league 5 times, become the heartbeat of one of the greatest defensive teams ever assembled, and helped Jose Mourinho conquer Europe. Yet most football fans barely remember him. This is The Dive, and today we're telling the story of Esteban Cambiasso.
El Cuchu! 2-1!
On paper, this should be an easy story to remember. Cambiasso won 21 major honours throughout his career. He won La Liga with Real Madrid, 5 Serie A titles with Inter, numerous domestic cups, the UEFA Super Cup, and the Champions League.
Sono tantissimi!
Those are not the achievements of a forgotten footballer. Those are the achievements of a modern great. Yet ask most fans to name the defining midfielders of the 2000s and early 2010s, and his name rarely appears. So what happened? Why did a player of such repute somehow disappear from football's collective memory? To understand why Cambiasso was forgotten, we have to start with the problem he faced at Real Madrid. He joined a football club obsessed with stars. Madrid re-signed Cambiasso in 2002 after successful spells with Independiente and River Plate back in his native Argentina. He arrived as an intelligent, versatile midfielder, and for the benefit of anyone who likes to define players by numbers loosely associated to positions, he was capable of playing as a holding 6, a deep 8, or a tactical utility player, whatever that means. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't a Galactico. Across 2 full seasons at Santiago Bernabeu, Cambiasso made 41 league appearances and won La Liga, the UEFA Cup, the Intercontinental Cup, and the Spanish Super Cup. Not a bad haul of trophies, but with no goals and a couple of assists to his name, hardly stats that jump off the page. But that's exactly the point. Cambiasso's true value was hidden and his true impact underappreciated. The Galactico era was built on stars scoring goals and creating moments, with license to roam and do, well, pretty much whatever they wanted. Zidane drifted, Figo roamed, and Ronaldo camped out in the opposition half. Somebody had to balance the system and fill the spaces everyone else abandoned. When he played, that was Cambiasso, and that was why he was so easily sacrificed. The problem was simple. Highlight culture rewards the final pass. It rewards goals, and it rewards those moments that were expensively assembled. Cambiasso specialised in preventing problems before they happened, and football rarely remembers players who make chaos look ordinary. And only now are we appreciating the value of players like him. Then came one of the strangest decisions of the Galactico era. In 2004, Cambiasso's contract expired. Real Madrid allowed him to leave, and Inter Milan signed him for nothing. Just think about that for a moment. One of Europe's richest clubs simply let a 23-year-old midfielder, who was the answer to their problems, walk away. And the timing couldn't have been worse, because Madrid were already beginning to discover a truth that would follow them for years. Talent alone doesn't create balance. The departure of Claude Makélélé had already exposed their structural weaknesses. Letting Cambiasso go would deepen them. Inter, meanwhile, had just found the cornerstone of an era. Now this is where the story changes. At Real Madrid, Cambiasso was useful, functional. At Inter Milan, he became essential. Across his decade with the Nerazzurri, Cambiasso made 431 appearances, scored 50 goals, won the league 5 times, the Copa Italia 4 times, and was pivotal to that glorious night in 2010, back at the Bernabeu, when tactical brilliance changed the game. Across his 10 years at the club, throughout managerial changes, tactical revolutions, and squad rebuilds, one thing never changed. Esteban Cambiasso remained the centre of everything. Under his first manager at the San Siro, Roberto Mancini, Cambiasso was the classic defensive midfielder, breaking up play, screening the defence, partnering with Juan Sebastian Veron. But as Inter evolved, so did he. Under Mancini, Cambiasso often played as what's now known as a double pivot, mixing ball winning with simple distribution. And in doing so, he became known as one of the outstanding players of the 2004-2005 Serie A season. And then Jose Mourinho arrived.
The challenge for me is simple. I always want to win.
And suddenly, the qualities Madrid overlooked became priceless. Now you can say what you want about Mourinho, But his vision and direction for players who can do simple things exceptionally is unmatched in modern football. And in Cambiasso, Mourinho didn't just have a defensive midfielder, he had his tactical connector. In Mourinho's midfield, Cambiasso was just there. Always unflinchingly there to screen counter-attacks, there to cover Maicon's rampaging runs forward, there to support Javier Zanetti, launch transitions, control match tempo. You get the idea. But more than anything, Cambiasso personified discipline, and Inter's famous treble-winning side was built on discipline. And no challenge that season required more discipline than their run to the Champions League final in 2010. Their biggest test in that competition came against Mourinho's old foe Pep Guardiola in the semi-finals, and they emerged victorious because of intelligence rather than flair. To preserve their first leg lead after going down to 10 men, Inter needed players capable of moving space and controlling risk. Players who understood what it takes to see a task through with backs against the wall. And in Cambiasso, Mourinho had one of the best in Europe.
I want to travel with Cambiasso. He belongs to my golden team, and he was fundamental in my golden team. He's one of the players that means a lot for me.
Mourinho and his predecessor Mancini had proved that with their use and reinvention of Cambiasso, what elite coaching and true understanding of what makes a team great, rather than what makes great players, looks like. But here's an interesting what if. What if Madrid had never let Cambiasso go? Looking at the profile that Mourinho in particular extracted from him, he's the archetype of one of football's most valuable players. Think about how highly Sergio Busquets at Barcelona, or Casemiro at Real, or Rodri at Manchester City are thought of. They aren't identical players, but they exist with similar principles. Their games are about control, positioning, anticipation and tactical intelligence. They're the keystone species in football and exist to improve the environment of those around them. As a result of losing Cambiasso, Real spent years searching for balance in midfield before eventually finding it through players like Xabi Alonso and later Casemiro. While in Milan, Inter had theirs and they got him for free.
Cambiasso tira, gol!
Esteban Cambiasso's greatest achievement wasn't winning trophies. It was making great teams function. He was never football's loudest star. He never sold the most shirts, and he never dominated headlines. But for more than a decade, he made elite football look easier than it really was. That's why he's forgotten. Genius isn't always exhibited by a flick or a trick or illustrated by figures and data, but if you look closer, below the artifice of numbers in football, you find players like Esteban Cambiasso, the game's great, forgotten architect.
El Cuchu! Di destro!